me start this morning quick. We'll just do a confession right away. I'm not a very good singer. I'm actually pretty bad. I'm wearing this microphone attached to my face. A regular fear of mine is that Jack will forget to mute me during the songs, and you will all be blessed with my voice. I think that did happen one time afterwards. It was a weird day. I was on key, so no one noticed, but Jack did. He turned it off real fast. I think it might skip a generation, the music talent, because both my parents are pretty good at singing. I'm gonna brag on my dad for a minute. This is my dad at his church. He's in Florida. On the right-hand side, the guy with the arrows over him. He's 72 years old. He's on his church's praise team. I think that's pretty cool. So I'm proud of my dad for that. But that's not me, all right? I skipped a generation somehow. I'm not very good. Anyone here wants to admit with me you're a bad singer? You're not? Yeah, my people. You're the reason we're trying to fix these speakers real fast. We don't want to hear. They don't want to hear us, I guess. So, some of us are good singers. Some of us are bad singers. But regardless of which one you are, there are days when you do feel like singing and days when you don't feel like singing, right? There's the occasional morning where I wake up, just got a song in my heart. And I skip my way over to the kitchen and I'm dancing through, singing a song, making some eggs, and it's just, I feel like singing even though it's bad, right? The song is in my heart. But there are other days I do not feel like singing. I don't have that joy in my heart. There's times even I've come here to this building on a Sunday morning and sat in a service and my heart doesn't want to join in the singing. It's actually a hurting heart. And I'm sure all of you have had this experience too, where there are days that you want to sing and there are days that you struggle to sing. And the next few weeks, as Tim mentioned, we're going through this Advent series talking about songs and singing about Jesus. And this morning we're going to be looking in Luke chapter 1. We're going to talk about a person named Mary. Maybe you've heard of her. And she sings to God. She praises God. And there's this whole roller coaster of emotions that lead up to her singing, and how she got through that to the point where she's praising is what we're going to look at this morning. And I think she realized something that I want to challenge each of you with this morning, and how to get to the praising is to believe and praise the mighty God who serves the weak. She believed and praised the mighty God who serves the weak, and that's what I want for each of us this morning as we look at her text. Let me start us off with the word of prayer. I know Tim just prayed, but I would like to pray again for this message. Father, thank you for being good. You are a mighty God who serves the weak, Lord, and that's us. We're the ones. We're the ones who are weak, and you are showing your might by serving us and caring for us. Lord, I pray that even in this message, we would recognize that care, that might that you're using, not for your own ends, but for us, Lord, to serve and care for us selflessly. Thank you, Father. Bless the words I say this morning, and bless the ears of each person who hears. We love you, Father. It's because of Christ we can pray this morning. Amen. Again, I encourage you to turn to Luke chapter 1. If you've got one of those blue pew Bibles, that's page 499. If you have one of the white ones, I don't know. I can't help you. So find a blue one. Sorry, we've got a couple white ones out there. Every time we start a new series, we have a new book of the Bible. It's important for a little context to want to understand what we're reading about. And we're in Luke chapter 1. Here's the context for what we're about to read. Israel has been waiting 400 years to hear anything from God to keep his promise, and they're kind of tired. That's it. That's the whole context. That's what you need to know. They've been waiting a long time for God to keep his promises. They haven't heard anything for all this 400 years, and they're a little bit worn out. And so as we look at Mary's song this morning and how she sings and how God reveals himself to her, there's two questions we're going to ask, all right? Two halves of this sermon. The first is, why is Mary singing? And the second half is going to be, what's she singing about? So we'll start with the first part, right? Why is Mary singing? We're going to read a lot of scripture this morning. I'll break it up, but we're going to follow, as I mentioned, this emotional roller coaster that Mary goes on that ends up with her praising. So how did she get there? We want to be at that point where we're praising and singing. What's all the stuff she went through? and how does she get there? So let's read, starting in verse 26 of Luke chapter 1. It says these words. In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. And the virgin's name was Mary. All right, scene 1 opens, right? This is our character. Her name is Mary. What's going on? How's she feeling? Fine. Everything's fine. Her life's kind of going as you would expect. Imagine she was probably about 15 years old. That was the typical age that women would be betrothed in that time period. So things are moving along just as she expected her life to be moving along. She has Joseph waiting to marry him. Everything's fine. She isn't anticipating something big happening or scared that something big will happen. But then God shows up. Verse 28, let's read. This is the angel that God sent Gabriel. And he came to her and said, "Greetings, O favored one. The Lord is with you." But she was greatly troubled at the saying and tried to discern what sort of greeting this might be. So she goes from fine to greatly troubled. That's not a phrase we use too often today in our vernacular. You don't get off the phone and say, well, now I'm greatly troubled at that conversation. We don't use that. If you're familiar with the Bible, the New Testament was originally written in Greek. And there is a Greek word that means troubled. You add a little prefix to the front of it and it becomes greatly troubled. And the reason I mention that is because this is the only time in all the New Testament the word greatly troubled is ever used. People are troubled pretty often. Earlier in this chapter, in Luke chapter 1, there's a man named Zechariah we'll learn about next week, that an angel came to visit him, and it says he was troubled. He was very surprised and scared. There's an angel here, what's going on? He was troubled, but Mary was greatly troubled, right? More than that. If you're familiar with the Christmas story in Matthew chapter 1, these wise men show up to King Herod, and they say, hey, we hear there's someone born here who's king of the Jews. Well, Herod thinks he's king of the Jews, and he's really upset. It says he's troubled. Herod was troubled so much that he kills the babies in Bethlehem to try and get rid of the king. But Mary was greatly troubled, more than that. Later in the Gospels, there's a story of the 12 disciples. They're on a boat in the Sea of Galilee. Huge storm is raging. There's waves tossing them around, wind blowing, thunder and lightning. They're very scared. Then they see someone walking on the water, and the Bible says they thought it was a ghost, and they were troubled. But Mary's more troubled than that. She's greatly troubled. Maybe some good words for it in English would be things like horrified, petrified, paralyzed with fear. Or for my Gen Z friends from like 10 years ago, she was shook, right? That's a dated reference. She's scared out of her mind. There's this thing in front of her. All she can think about is this. Nothing else matters. She doesn't know her own name. She doesn't know what she's doing with her life. She's probably forgotten to be continent, right? This is all she's greatly troubled. She went from fine to that in an instant. This is part of the roller coaster. What's the next stop? Let's keep reading. Verse 30, and the angel said to her, do not be afraid. Understatement. Mary, for you have found favor with God. And behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus. He'll be great and will be called the Son of the Most High, and the Lord will give to him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there will be no end. And Mary said to the angel, how will this be, since I'm a virgin? Right? She's now confused. I don't understand how this is going to work. Angel, I'm a virgin. I haven't been with a man. I'm no scientist, but I think I know how this is supposed to work. I've got a lot of questions. She only asked the angel one question. I promise you, she's got 400 questions on deck to back it up with about what's going on. She's very confused. She's moved from fine to greatly troubled to being just confused. And again, the reason we're tracking this roller coaster that Mary is on is because a lot of us are somewhere on the same spectrum, right? We're trying to get to the end. The destination is praise. That's where we're going. But we're somewhere on this spectrum. Maybe you're here this morning and you're thinking, I'm fine. Nothing special's going on. My life is just normal. I'm doing normal stuff. Maybe you're on the other side and you are greatly troubled. There's this something that you're thinking about and you can't get your eyes off it and nothing else matters. And I don't know what I'm going to do. What's going on? What's this thing in my life? And you're greatly troubled. Or you could be somewhere in the middle and you're more confused. I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. Everyone else seems like they have their lives together and I don't. Am I doing the right things? So we're all somewhere on this spectrum that Mary was experiencing all in one afternoon. But she's going to get to praise, and we're going to keep moving along till we can get there with her. She asked the question in verse 35. This is the response. The angel answered her, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. Therefore, the child to be born will be called Holy, the Son of God. And behold, your relative, Elizabeth, in her old age has also conceived a son, and this is the 6th month with her who was called barren. For nothing will be impossible with God." And Mary said, "Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." And the angel departed from her. The angel gives her a little bit more explanation about what's going on, but her response is, I'll submit. I'll do whatever it is God's calling me to. Now, I promise you, she is not any less confused or greatly troubled. She's still experiencing those things. She still hasn't had all of her questions answered. She doesn't know what's going to be next, how this is going to work. Right? Well, what's the baby? Is the baby now? Like, am I having the baby right now? Is it going to be later? When? How long from now? You said something about the Messiah, like this baby is the Messiah. She has all these questions confused, but just says, I'll let God handle it. She's still greatly troubled. What's this going to mean if I have a baby? I'm not wed. Do you know the implications of how this is going to work? I'm going to lose all my support, right? They're not going to believe this virgin birth story if I tell them that. They're going to kick me out of my community. Maybe my family will kick me out. I'll certainly lose this husband I'm betrothed to. She's still very greatly troubled, doesn't have answers for all these things. But her response is, nonetheless, I'm going to submit to what God's called me into. And I know submission is like a dirty word in our culture, but it's a necessary stop on the way to praising God. There's one more stop we're going to take, two more stops on this roller coaster that Mary's on. Verse 39. In those days, Mary arose and went with haste into the hill country to a town in Judah, and she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. Now, I didn't really know how to characterize Mary's emotions at this point, but I know she's looking for community for some reason. She's looking for community. Maybe she heard the angel say, Elizabeth, your relative, by the way, we're not sure how they were related, maybe a cousin. She heard the angel say, your relative is having a child, and now Mary's going to go investigate. Well, let's see if these things are true, right? The angel said, I'm going to have a baby. He said, she's having a baby. I'm going to go to her and try and find out some answers, but I need to be with her to figure this out. Or maybe she believed everything the angel said immediately and needs some wisdom. It's like, how should I respond? Excuse me. How should I act? And so she goes to someone else who's experiencing these same things, Elizabeth, and says, I need to be around her to find out wisdom. She's looking for community. Sometimes if we're experiencing that roller coaster and we're trying to get to praise, we skip this step. We're trying to figure out, what does God want from me? How is this going to work? I don't know where to go or what to do. And we assume maybe in isolation I can figure this out. But I promise you, if you're looking for the wisdom of God, you're not going to find it by ignoring all the people he's blessed with that wisdom. And so Mary knows this, and she says, I've got to be with someone else. I've got to have community. Let's continue reading. Verse 41. When Elizabeth heard the greeting of Mary, the baby leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit, and she exclaimed with a loud cry, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. And why is this granted to me, that the mother of my Lord should come to me? For behold, when the sound of your greeting came to my ears, the baby in my womb leaped for joy. And blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to her from the Lord." In Elizabeth's excitement, she just starts rattling off praises. The moment Mary walks in the door, Elizabeth is overwhelmed. And she answers the question we've been working on this whole time. Why does Mary sing? And we see in the last verse there, verse 45, Mary is singing because blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to her from the Lord. Blessed, it's a word that can mean happy in certain contexts. I think in our context, we can say, the one who sings. The one who sings and wants to sing is the one who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to them from the Lord. That's why she's singing, simply because she believed the Lord. It wasn't because she understood everything and had complete confidence that she was in charge. Hardly. It wasn't because she wasn't greatly troubled or that she'd made all the right decisions up till now and everything was perfect. Her life, I knew this was going to happen. This is exactly how I planned it. None of that. She simply believes the Lord and says, because I believe you, it's given me cause to sing. And that leads us to the second question, right? We're going to get into the song here. What is Mary singing about? So that's why she sings, because she believes the Lord. That's it. But what does she sing about? What does she believe about the Lord? First, she believes that God uses his might to serve. Look for that in verses 46 to 49 here. Mary said, "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for he has looked on the humble estate of his servant. For behold, from now on, all generations will call me blessed. For he who is mighty has done great things for me, and holy is his name." Now, maybe that doesn't strike you immediately as odd, but that's usually not how the power hierarchy works. Right? If you have all the might and all the power, and you have servants, they're called servants because they serve you. You're the one who gets to be blessed by them, and they do all the things for you, but God flips that over. He says, I've got all the power, I've got all the might, I'm the mighty one, and I use that to do great things for my people, for the humble servants. Now, I have 4 boys. They're all about 18 months or 2 years apart from each other, ages 8 down to 2 right now. And what often happens is an older brother will be mean to or hurt a younger brother. Now, my kids are pretty good, so this only happens like 12 times a day. And when the older brother does that, I take them aside and we have the same questions we go through each time, right? I look at them and I say, who's bigger, you or your brother? And they say, I am. Good. Who made you bigger? God did. And why did God make you bigger than your little brother? So I can take care of them, right? I'm trying to teach them this idea of meekness, that if you have power and strength and might, it's not for your own service to use for yourself, but God blesses you with that gift so you can care for others who don't have it. That's what Mary recognizes in God. God is a meek God. It doesn't mean he's a weak God. It means he has all the power and the strength, but he uses it for the sake of serving other people. And that's not what our culture does with power or might. We do it the other way you'd expect, the selfish way. Right? People who have power say, all right, how can I use this to get more for myself? And it's not just rich and mighty people, some tyrant or dictator somewhere, but all of us, we're trying to get just a little bit more. I wish I had just a little bit higher role in my job or a promotion or just a little bit more money, or if I could just get in that one position that gives me a little more authority. Why? It's not often so we can use that to care for others. We say, if I had that, then I'd be in a little bit more comfortable position. I'd have better hours at work. I'd have more time off. I'd be able to have more comfort. I could finally replace that old beat up car I have, live in a house that has a little more room. We want to get this strength and power, not so we can use it for others, but so that we can make ourselves feel a little bit more ease. And God looks at us and says, hey, who has more, you or your neighbor? I do. Who gave you more? You did. And why did I give you more? So I could use it to care for others. And that's the example, the thing that Mary sees in God that just blows her mind. The one with all the might and all the power is using it to serve other people and care for them. He's a God who does great things for those in humble estate. And that brings us to the next aspect of God that Mary praises in her song. God also gives his mercy to the helpless. Look at verse 50. And his mercy, as I read this, before I go, I want you to who is God accepting and helping in these verses, and think about who is God rejecting in these verses. So verse 50, and his mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation. He has shown strength with his arm, and he has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. And he's brought down the mighty from their thrones and exalted those of humble estate. He has filled the hungry with good things, and the rich he has sent away empty. So there's the people that he's rejecting, the rich, the proud, the mighty, and the people that he's giving mercy to, those who fear him, those who are humble, those who are hungry. And I don't think Mary in her song is suggesting that God's kindness towards you is completely dependent on whether you have an empty stomach or a full wallet, right? This is poetic. It's a song. She's making two different types of people. There are those people who think they're doing just fine and don't need any help. And there's the people who recognize, I'm not okay. I need someone to help me. Right? Think about people who are rich, mighty, and proud. They're not the type that are quick to say, can you please help me? I need help. I can't do it on my own. No, quite the opposite. They will keep up that appearance. They're worried about the image, and they want to always look like they're fine and that they don't ever need any help. And they're strong enough to handle anything on their own. It's not merely rich people that deal with this. It's, again, all of us that are more concerned with the image of saying, no, I'm okay, nothing's wrong with me, I don't feel like I need anyone's help right now. But on the other side, there's the helpless that God's showing his mercy to, the humble one who's hungry and recognizes, I can't do this. They're not concerned with their image, they're concerned with their life. And they know they need God if their soul is going to survive. They recognize a truth about how God operates. And it's that you can't appear like you have it all together and receive God's mercy at the same time. You have to choose one of those. And that's the way that Jesus has always acted. That's what the gospel message is. He didn't come to save the people who are great, who are fine. He came to save sinners who recognize it. He's here to give his mercy to the one who humbles himself and drops the image and says, I'm not okay. I'll say it again. You can't appear like you have your life all together and receive God's mercy at the same time. You have to choose one of those. And Mary recognized that she wanted to be the latter. She said, I'm just a humble servant. I'll do what you say. I don't deserve any of this. I also need a savior. God gives his mercy to those who are helpless. Part of being a humble servant means that you have to wait for the Lord to act and not act in your own time. Look at the last two verses of Mary's song here. Verse 54 says, he has helped his servant Israel in remembrance of his mercy, as he spoke to our fathers, to Abraham and to his offspring forever. God sends his salvation at just the right time. Do you remember that the complicated context I gave you for this passage, right? That Israel's been waiting for 400 years for God to keep his promises, and they're getting tired, right? Mary was experiencing that. All the people in the Old Testament are experiencing that. They're waiting for God to do the thing to save them in the way that he promised he would. And different people respond to that waiting differently. Abraham is actually mentioned right here. God promised Abraham, hey, I know you're very old, but I'm going to bless you with a son. And so Abraham patiently waits for 10 years. That's a long time. He waits for 10 years, and then he thinks to himself, I better take this into my own hands. And he sleeps with his wife's servant, and she conceives. But God says, no. That's not how my promises work. You need to continue waiting. And he has to wait for 15 more years until God blesses him with the promised son of Isaac. Another person from the Old Testament named King Saul, he only had to wait 7 days. God said, just wait 7 days. I'm going to send a prophet named Samuel to you. He's going to offer a sacrifice so you can go into this battle. And Saul waits like 6.5, like 6 3/4. I got to do it myself. And he does the sacrifice himself. Immediately the prophet Samuel shows up and is like, what have you done? And he loses his kingdom over it. We don't like waiting. Everyone struggles with waiting. Because what happens in waiting is that there's this immediate tension that builds up. We want a thing to happen and it's not happening. And so we feel that tension. And all of us are trying our hardest to get rid of it. Like, well, how do I get rid of this tension of waiting? What can I do? Right? That's the question all of us ask when God says, wait. You're like, cool, what do I do? No, you wait because God wants you to experience that tension and then just sit in it. But tension makes us so uncomfortable that we're always trying to get on top of it and get rid of it and put ourselves in charge. And we might get angry when we're waiting, blaming other people as if things are their fault. We might have anxiety while we're waiting, where our mind is trying to work so hard. How can I relieve this tension? How can I get rid of it? We might experience apathy as a way of getting rid of the tension. Well, the tension hurts, so I'm just going to stop caring about it. But God says, no, I'm going to deliver my salvation at just the right time. And I want you to learn to trust me. I want you to get off of your throne where you seem like you have it together. And I want you to live as my humble servant. I'm not going to forget to be merciful. I always remember my mercy to my servants. And I want you to know that. And sometimes sitting in the tension is what it takes for God to get that message across to us. Now, I'm not sure if you feel like singing this morning. Maybe you're still in that confused stage. Or maybe you're even in the greatly troubled stage. Maybe you're in the I'm fine, I don't think I need any help stage. Or perhaps God has you in that waiting stage where you're waiting to see if he'll actually do something and you're experiencing that tension. But I pray that like Mary, you would place yourself in submission to the Lord. I'm the servant of the Lord, and let it be to me according to your word, God. And I pray that you would believe in the God who serves the weak. And that would cause you to praise the God who serves the weak. And hopefully we'll be able to say over you the same thing that Elizabeth said over Mary, that blessed are you who believe that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to you from the Lord. Let's pray. Father, thank you that you are a great, mighty God. You have all the strength and power in the universe. And what do you do with it? You serve us. You care for us. You send your son to die for us, to save us. Lord, we don't deserve any of this. I pray that knowing that's who you are would give us confidence as we wait. Not that we need to be in control, but that you can be in control. And that you'll take care of us. You're good, and we love you, Father. Thank you for Jesus Christ, the fulfillment of your mercy and promise. It's because of him we're able to pray. Amen.